Hello everybody, welcome to Tuck Tales with me, Mara Menzies, and this is a brand new series from the Scottish Storytelling Centre. So you guys are in for a real treat because you have got many of these on their way, and I do believe that this is the first one, so I'm really lucky and happy to be here. But yes, I hope that you are in a mood for stories. If you are logging in just now, if you put a little comment, you can type up a comment and then we can see where everybody is listening from, and if you've got anything that you'd like to say, if I'm able to read it, then I will make a little mention of it. Now, I was telling people on my networks that I was going to be doing this morning, and I asked if people could send me in a picture, and from that picture I could create a brand new story. And I had quite a few pictures come in, so I had so many that I'm not going to be able to use all of them, but I have chosen a few pictures, and these are pictures from a few different places as well. And I will show you these pictures, and then I'm going to put together a little story for you. Our first comment, hello Lara from Dubai, and she loves stories. And I am Mara from here, and I love stories too, so welcome. So this first picture is from Mia, who lives in East Lothian, and it is a picture of a cat hiding behind a curtain. And our next picture is from Tatiana, who is also in Scotland, and she has drawn this baobab tree. I wonder how we're going to have a cat and a baobab tree together. This is a picture from Maureen, who lives in Edinburgh, and can you guess what that is? Oh, it is, of course, a little fairy. And these beautiful pictures. And then the last picture is a picture from Zora. And what is this? If you look very closely, can you tell me what this is made of? Can you picture it? Yeah, if you go even closer, because the head is made of something different. But yes, these are all tiny little shells. So Zora has been at the beach, and I do believe this is one of those little squishy, squelchy, rubbery toy things. So Zora has gone and put this together and made this lovely creature. So how am I going to put all of these pictures together and create a story? Well, I have. You see, once upon a time, there was a giant. And this giant was a giant witch. But a lot of people think that witches were all cruel and bad and wicked, but this one was not. In fact, she was really kind. She was a very helpful witch. But because she was also extremely big, very large, people were afraid of her. And because of this, she didn't have any friends. She would just wander around, all lonely, until one day she came across somebody. And who do you think this person was? It was a cat. Yes. And this little cat saw the witch, but the little cat was not afraid that the witch was so big. The little cat just thought, this person looks quite kind. And so the little cat started rubbing itself around the witch's legs, and the witch and the cat became very good friends. And one day they went for a walk. And when the witch went for a walk, she could stomp like nobody else because she was so big she couldn't fly. And the little cat would follow her everywhere that she went. And one day, as they were stomping around the world, they came across a great big field. And in that field, there was a hole. And the little cat didn't notice the hole, and wow! She went flying down, and she landed at the bottom with a great big thud. And the witch said, oh no, my friend, the only friend that I have in the entire world, I have to get the cat out. And so she did. She reached her hand all the way down into the hole. She grabbed hold of the cat and she pulled the little cat out. And at that moment, there happened to be a little fairy fluttering by. And when she saw the goodness that the witch had done, she thought, I have to repay this goodness somehow. And so she spoke to the witch and she said, tell me, what would you like? Something, I will create it if I'm able to. And the witch thought about it and she said, well, do you know something? I really love trees. And I would love if you could make a tree, and then that way I could come and sit under that tree. But it has to be a big tree because I am a big witch. And that way my little cat can run up and down and play, and I can sit under and enjoy the cool breeze. And so, whoa, the fairy created the world's first baobab tree, and it was so big and its branches spread so wide that the witch could very happily sit underneath it and enjoy the cool breeze, and the cat could run up and down the branches. And because the tree was so big, it was able to hold many little animals, and so the witch got plenty of new friends. And that is my made-up story for you today. I hope that you enjoyed that one. And yeah, I think it's just really lovely to have a picture. I'm sure many of you are making pictures at home, and to take those pictures and create brand new stories with them. And maybe if it's a collection of pictures that you've made from day to day, then you could put them together and somehow create a brand new story. So lots of people commenting now. Oh, we've got, oh my goodness. I'll try this one. Tarinan Kertoja, yes, from Finland. Lovely to see you. I saw Daniel earlier, and there was another name above that, but I missed it. And Claire Jane for Tap Tap. So yes, welcome to you all. Now then, what story am I going to tell next? So I'm going to tell one of my favorite stories, and this is a story. I come from Kenya and Scotland, and I'm going to be telling a story from all the way from Kenya. And this story is it's an old story. It happened a long time ago. And it was at the time when the world was a dark, miserable place. And the reason that it was miserable is that there was no colour. Imagine, no reds, no pinks, no greens, no blues, nothing. It was grey and black and brown and boring, utterly boring. And it was worse than that. There were no stories, there was no songs, there was no music, there were no jokes. And so the people who lived there, they didn't know how to laugh, they didn't know how to sing, they didn't know how to dance. How miserable is that? And so there was another place, and luckily this place was very different. This place was high up in the heavens, and there was every single colour that you could possibly imagine. And for those of you commenting, maybe you could tell me what your favourite colour is. There was pinks and greens and oranges, purples, and purple is my favourite colour. Every colour everywhere. And there was feasting and laughter and dancing all day long. And there were two brothers who lived up there. And one of those brothers was Sun, and Sun's brother was Moon. And the two brothers loved each other more than anything else in the world. They did everything together. And one day, after they had played their games and eaten their food, they sat thinking, what can we do next? And they looked around and they saw our planet, and they thought, we've never been down there. Let's go and see what it's like. So Sun was the oldest, and so he went first, and he grabbed a tiny little spider, and whee, he threw it down to the ground. And he grabbed the silver spider's web, and down he went. And when the people saw Sun, they couldn't believe their eyes. Look how beautiful Sun is. Wow! He was red and orange and yellow and gold and wonderful, rich, warm colours. And when they saw Sun, well, they were very pleased. But then it was time for Moon to come down. And Moon, he grabbed the silver spider's web, and down he came. And when the people saw Moon, they forgot all about Sun, because Moon, just like Lara, she had all the colours of the rainbow, every single one. Oh, we've got Isabella is 6 years old. Her favourite colour is turquoise. Well, do you know something? Yep, Moon had turquoise. Yep, lots of people have got rainbow. Oh, Annie her favourite colour is blue. Well, all of these colours and more. And when the people saw Moon, their eyes widened. Oh my goodness, we love you, Moon. And Moon was very happy. Oh, thank you, thank you. Oh, you're beautiful, Moon. Oh, thank you. And they would chase after Moon and shout, you're magnificent, Moon. And Moon was so happy. But while all this was going on, well, how do you think Sun was feeling? Yep, you're right. Not very good at all. He was upset. He was sad. He felt lonely. He became very jealous and angry, and all of these feelings built up inside, and he said, I have to do something about my brother. And so he thought, what can I do? And he plotted and he planned. And just then Moon was feeling a little bit tired. And so he lay down. And he was soon fast asleep. And while he was asleep, do you know what Sun did? He crept in. Nobody was watching. And he stole every single one of Moon's colours. All of them. He put them in a great big bag around his neck, and then he ran away to hide. And poor Moon had no idea what had happened. So when he woke up, he went down to the river to wash his face. La-di-da-di-da. He saw his reflection. Oh, where are my colours? Where have they gone? They have to be around here somewhere. Oh no! He searched everywhere, behind rocks, behind bushes, behind trees. He asked everybody he came into contact with, have you seen my colours? But nobody had seen them. And poor Moon, he cried and he cried and he cried. And after 3 whole days, imagine that, 3 whole days of crying. Well, there were no more tears left. And so Moon, he thought, my colours cannot just disappear. They have to be around here somewhere. And so he decided to go and find them. And off he went. Rangi o umeenda wapi? Rangi o umeenda wapi? He sang, oh my colours, where have you gone? Where have you gone? And he hunted everywhere. And he came to a mountain, and at the top of that mountain, he saw a little cave. And he thought, maybe my colours are in that cave. So he started to climb the mountain. And as he got closer and closer to the cave, he saw something scuttling around inside. But he got closer and closer, and he saw that thing popping up in the shadows of the cave. And he got closer and closer, and it was a rat. But not any old rat. This rat was the most horrible, the most grumpy, the most miserable rat that you could imagine. And Moon thought, well, maybe the rat knows something. Excuse me, rat, have you seen my colours? And, well, this is something that you can help me with at home. Could you say, no, 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 I haven't seen your colours. But I want you to imagine that you are this grumpy, horrible rat. So have you seen my colours? No, 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 I haven't seen your colours. Sorry, have you seen my colours? No, 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 I haven't seen your colours. Poor Moon. His colours were not in the cave. And so he said thank you and he waved goodbye and he started to move down the mountain. Rangi o umeenda wapi? Rangi o umeenda wapi? And he came to the sea. And it was a cold, grey looking sea. But he thought, maybe my colours are at the bottom of the sea. So he started to swim under the water, looking everywhere. He passed by hundreds of tiny little fish when suddenly, coming towards him, was something with 8 long legs. Can you guess it? Yes, you're right, an octopus. And this octopus was the happiest, friendliest octopus in the world. Excuse me, octopus, have you seen my colours? No, I haven't seen your colours. And if you said it in that voice at home, you're doing amazing. Yes. Oh, sorry, what was that, said Moon? Have you seen my colours? No, I haven't seen your colours. Oh, poor Moon. So his colours, well, they weren't in the sea. So he said thank you He waved goodbye. He jumped out of the sea. He shook his head and off he went. Rangi o umeenda wapi? Rangi o umeenda wapi? And he came to a village and he was just about to leave because he didn't see anybody when he heard something. Ribbit. And he looked around and of course he saw a tiny little, a frog. Excuse me, frog, have you seen my colours? But this little frog had a very, very sore throat, so I need your sorest throat voices for this one. Have you seen my colours? No, I haven't seen your colours. Sorry, I missed that. Have you seen my colours? No, I haven't seen your colours. Poor Moon. His colours weren't in the village either. So he said thank you and he waved goodbye and off he went and he came to a forest. Now remember, the world is a dark and miserable place, but in this forest the trees had big black branches reaching up into the sky, and as he made his way through he heard terrible sounds, frightening sounds. If you can imagine these sounds at home, if you could do them with me, all other kinds of sounds, when suddenly he saw flashes of colour and light. I found my colours, he thought, and he raced towards them as fast as he could. But it wasn't his colours at all. It was a bird. But this bird had the most beautiful, colourful wings. It flew through the trees and Moon said, "Hey, bird, how come you have got such colourful feathers in this dark and miserable world?" "Oh, yesterday I was just a plain and ordinary little bird like everything else, but then Sun came through this forest with a great big bag of colours, and some of them, they landed on me and ta-da!" Well, Moon was horrified. What? Sun? My brother Sun took my colours? No. Now, if you are watching this and you've got a brother or a sister or somebody really close to you, would you take their things without asking? Have they ever taken your things without asking? Oh, because if they have, or if you have, well, this had never, ever happened to Moon before. And he thought, I have to get to the bottom of things. And he went off in search of his brother. And he marched and marched, and soon he saw him. There was Sun, hiding under the branches of a tall tree, and round his neck there was a bag bulging with colours. My goodness, they were everywhere. And he said, "Are those my colours? Give them back." But what do you think Sun said? He said no. And so Moon leapt out and he grabbed the bag, and then came the most awful, terrible tug of war that you can imagine. Sun pulling one way, Moon pulling the other. It went on for hours and hours and days, and those days turned into weeks until one day something terrible happened. The bag tore, and all of those colours, they spilt out into the world, and they started to find new homes. They found homes in the clothes that you and I are both wearing. They found homes in the flowers and the animals and the birds. They went everywhere. And Moon, he tried to catch just one colour, but it was just no good. The colours had all gone away. And Sun, well, he realised that he had done something terrible. And instead of apologising, no, he didn't. He was too scared. And so he ran away as fast as he could, and he jumped up into the sky. But Moon saw him, and Moon was furious, and he raced after him, and he too jumped up into the sky. And if you look up into the sky on a nice clear day, sometimes you can still see Moon, and he is chasing his brother Sun all around the world. There you go. So that is my story for you today, or my Kenyan story for you today. I hope that you enjoyed that one. And, you know, there's always a little bit of truth in stories. So maybe some of you have heard another reason of why the sun and the moon go round the world, but there is another option for you. So a big hello to some people. So hi to Kat and hi to Nita, who is all right for India. So yes, nice to see you all there. I'm going to tell another little story now. And this story that I'm going to tell you is a Scottish story, and it's one of my favourite Scottish stories. And I think we've got people from all over the world watching actually, which is really lovely. So I hope that you enjoy this mix of Kenya and Scotland today. I've some people in from Iceland as well. I saw it earlier, but I forgot to read the names, so apologies for that. I will try and remember if you do another little comment there. So yes, this is a story from Duncan Williamson, who is one of Scotland's greatest ever storytellers, and I found this story of his in one of his books, and I told it at a little storytelling ceilidh at a friend's house, and Duncan's wife was there and she said, yes, but that story isn't as good. And she's the one who actually gave me the book. So I read the original version. So this is my version for you. Big hello to Gillian, who has just joined in. So you're here for another story. So I have one more story for you guys. And it's a story about a young man who fell in love with a young woman. And I'm sure that many of you have fallen in love before. And so we all know those familiar feelings, don't we? Oh, when your heart begins to race. Oh, and pound. Yeah, Priyanka from India, if you're watching, have you ever been in love? Do you know those feelings? Yeah, when maybe your hands begin to sweat. Lizzie from the Highlands, this is a story from that part. So tell me, what does it feel like to fall in love? Oh, sometimes his face would flush bright red whenever he saw her. Oh my word. Every time he saw her, he would hardly speak. He would become a gibbering mess. And the thing is that she loved him right back. Whenever she saw him, she too could hardly speak. She would tuck her hair behind her ear and she would show off her neck. And soon, of course, the two of them were so in love with each other they could hardly spend a minute apart from each other. Russia is here in the house. Oh, you're in time for this little Scottish story. Yes, so they would spend every minute of every day together. And of course, after some time, they decided to get married. And there was a wonderful wedding. Everybody in the village was there. They were feasting, they were drinking, they were dancing, they were partying until the very, very early hours of the morning. And sometime later, after the celebrations had died down and life went back to normal, they were a newly married couple. Now, sometimes when people get married, there is something that they want. And what do you think that is? Yeah. Oh, well, some of you have guessed a baby, and you are absolutely right. Yes, they couldn't wait for the little pitter-patter of tiny feet. And so they waited. And they waited, and they waited, and they waited, and they waited, and there was no baby coming. They spoke to the doctors. They asked the midwives. They asked their friends and their families. They tried to eat certain foods. They drank certain potions. They visited certain places, but nothing worked. And soon the months and the years began to roll by. And it was after a long time that they thought, it's just not our luck. We are never, ever going to have a baby. And so as soon as they had accepted that as their destiny, bing, she became pregnant. And a few months later, plop, out came the baby. A beautiful little boy with bright blue shining eyes. And I know that many of you are familiar with babies, those lovely little wet lips, yeah? That lovely sound that babies make. If you say it at home, oh, the most wonderful sound in the world. And this little boy, not only was he beautiful to look at, but he had a wonderful nature, a happy, joyful nature. He loved his parents. Whenever he saw them, his little fat fingers would reach out and he would try to grab them, and they loved him with every piece of their being. And as time went by, it was the middle of summer and they were out in their fields and they were busy working away, trying to weed the vegetables and get everything ready for the harvest. And they had taken their little baby and put him in his basket, and placed him under a bush to protect him from the sun. And as they were busy working away, suddenly the baby started to cry. And this was very unusual. This baby was a happy child, and the mother raced over and she picked him up and she tried to nurse him, but the baby was not interested in any milk at all. And so she thought, well, the baby's still crying, maybe he's dirty. So she checked his nappy, but it was perfectly clean, perfectly dry, and still the baby, a look of rage on his face. His eyes were all screwed up. His colour was changing from a lovely cream to pink and orange and red and purple. And she thought, my goodness, I wonder what's wrong. She checked under his clothes in case an insect had stung him, or perhaps it was a twig or a thorn hurting him. But no, there was absolutely nothing. And she said to her husband, I think there's something wrong with the baby. I'm going to take him home. And so she did. She took him home. She called for the doctor. The doctor came and checked the baby over. His little fists were clenched and he was punching the air. And no matter what the doctor checked, everything seemed fine. And he said, maybe he's just having a bad day. Give him a bath and then see how he's doing tomorrow. And so that is what she did. The husband came home and he walked and tried to soothe the baby, patting him on the back, but it was just no good. And when the baby wasn't screaming or shrieking or howling or wailing, he was gurgling that terrible heartbreaking sound, that all through the night. And in the morning, it was exactly the same. And the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that, until almost a whole week had gone by. And on the Saturday, there was a knock on the door, and it was the postman. And when the wife opened the door, he was horrified. Good grief, woman, look at you. You look as if you haven't slept in a week. I haven't. The baby will not stop crying. And the postman peered into the house, and there he saw the husband with his face in his hands. The eyes were sunken, the skin was grey, and in the corner, in his cot, the baby, shrieking and fists clenched and tears down his face. A terrible sight. And the postman was a father, and he knew that sometimes it can be a little bit difficult. So he said, I tell you what, why don't you guys just go and have a break? I'll take care of the baby. And as soon as he said that, they jumped into their cart and off they went to find a place to sleep. And as soon as the sound of wheels faded into the distance, stopped. And the postman, he went over to the cot. He peered in. There was no baby in there. It was a little old man with a long white beard and shining blue eyes. And as soon as he saw the postman, he said, have they gone? And the postman was astonished. He jumped back and said, what? Have they gone? And the postman nodded. Yes, they've gone. Oh, thank goodness for that. And the little old man jumped out of the cradle and he stretched, cracking his bones. And he said, oh, finally. Oh, I'm hungry, so hungry. All they give me is milk. Do you like milk? Milk is horrible, nasty, disgusting stuff. I want something to eat. And he started climbing over the shelves and he found a bit of bread. He tore into that. He started looking for something to drink, and then he saw a bottle of whiskey up on the top, and he climbed up over the shelves. He grabbed the bottle, unscrewed it, drank the whole thing, and he threw it out of the window. Terrible. And then he said to the postman, Postman, can you play? Play? And he said, well, I can play the fiddle. Right, play, I want to dance, I want to have a party, I want to have some fun. And so the postman was quite amused at this little man. So he took the fiddle off the wall and he started to play. Tune after tune after tune, reels and jigs. And the whole time that little old man was jumping and dancing and twirling and kicking his legs up in the air and laughing. And what a time they had. The postman was enjoying himself tremendously, when suddenly the sound of wheels could be heard coming up the path, And when the wife and the husband opened the door, wah! The crying started again. Oh no, what are we going to do? This is a disaster. And the postman, he took them to one side and he said, tell me, how did this happen? And they told him how on the Monday they'd been working in their fields and then the baby just started to cry. And he said, Monday? Oh, that was midsummer, and that is when the fairies can slip into the world of the humans and steal the human children. That is not your baby. That is a changeling. The fairies have taken your child and replaced him with one of their own. But you've only got one day before the change becomes permanent. And they said, well, what are you talking about? Because they thought the postman was a little bit mad at that point. And he said, it's true. Yep, you've got one thing to do. You have to take your baby, wrap him up in blankets nice and tight. And once you've got him, carry him on your shoulder up behind the mountain at your house. And when you reach the top of the mountain, by the waterfall, you take your baby and you throw him in. And that will fix everything for you. What? Throw our baby into the waterfall? Have you gone mad? Absolutely not. We would never do anything like that. And the postman said, I'm sorry, but that is not your baby. But the postman had other jobs to do, so he said goodbye and off he went. And the wife and the husband were furious. How could he say anything like that? But the baby was in the cot, screeching and howling. And they said, well, obviously we're not going to throw our baby in the waterfall, but there's no harm in maybe just going up and having a look. So they took their baby and they wrapped him up in blankets nice and tight. They put him on their shoulder and they started to make their way up the mountain path. And as they did the whole way, what do you think the baby was doing? Yep, you're right. Howling and moaning and wailing. And if his hands were free, he'd have probably been fists clenched as well. And as they got higher up the mountain, they began to hear the sound, the rumbling, thunderous sound of the waterfall. And they got closer and closer, and they could feel the icy spray on their faces. And they got closer and closer. And as they reached the top of the mountain and they peered down, all they could see were the jagged rocks on the bottom, the foaming, swirling, crashing white water, the flow. Oh, it was terrifying. And they said, we are never throwing our baby in there. And at that moment, the baby gave off the most hideous shriek imaginable. They had no choice. They had to throw the baby in. So they took hold of him. They looked at each other and they counted 1, 2, 3. Whoosh! They threw their baby in. And as the baby flew through the air in slow motion is what they were looking, and they saw those blankets and towels beginning to unravel, and they saw his tiny little fists clenched, and oh, they held on to each other. But then they saw a flowing white beard, and they saw the face of a little old man, and he was furious. He was punching the air. How could you do this to me? How could you do this to me? How could you do this to me? And he disappeared. He was gone. And while the wife and the husband, they stood empty-handed at the top of the waterfall. And slowly and sadly, they made their way back down the mountain towards their house. And when they got there, they were just walking up the garden path when they heard the most beautiful sound. They raced towards the door, they flung it open, and there, in his cradle, was their baby. And his little fat fingers reached out for them, and they scooped him up. They held him close, and of course, they lived happily ever after. And that is my story for you today. And perhaps if you come over to Scotland, if you're not in Scotland already, and if you are in Scotland, maybe a little visit to the west coast. If you do come across a foaming, crashing, swirling white water waterfall, then just be very, very careful, because clearly there are fairies around there. So there you go. That is the very first of the Scottish Storytelling Centre's Tuck Tales, and I hope that you enjoyed yourselves. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. A big hello to Alistair, a big hello to Raquel. I cannot read the Russian name, so I'm not going to embarrass myself by trying. But thank you very much for joining us from all over the world, from India, from Iceland, from Russia, and from our Scottish friends as well. And yes, tune in next Tuesday morning for some more lovely stories. And in the meantime, have an absolutely lovely week, and we shall see you later.